4 of the 5 metro areas with the steepest home price drops in the entire United States are right here on Florida's Gulf Coast, 4 out of 5. Drive down Cape Coral's waterfront streets on a Saturday morning, and you will see the boats, the palm trees, the wide canals shimmering in the Florida sun. Real estate ads call this paradise. They are not wrong about the view, but here is what they are not telling you. Today we count down the 10 Southwest Florida cities where prices are falling, the fastest homes are sitting unsold for months, and insurance costs are bleeding homeowners dry. And number 1 holds the worst number in the entire country. Subscribe now so you never miss the next housing warning. Turn off Interstate 75 and drive west toward the Gulf, and Venice greets you like Florida always used to palm trees lining the road, white stucco houses tucked behind flowering hedges, salt air drifting through the windows. It is the kind of town where people retire to, where they thought they had made it. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to ResiClub Analytics, the Northport, Sarasota, and Bradenton Metro, the market Venice belongs to, saw home prices fall 7.54% year over year. And according to Redfin's March 2026 data, the number of homes for sale across this metro surged roughly 50% from a year ago. Sellers are not just waiting, they are competing against each other. The root cause is not complicated. Pandemic-era buyers paid peak prices to get into this market. Now there are too many homes, too few buyers and sellers who cannot wait any longer. The same inventory surge that blew up other Sunbelt markets is playing out here, only slower and quieter, and without the national headlines it deserves. A growing number of homeowners in this market report listing their home hearing nothing for 3 months straight, then cutting the price by $30,000 to $40,000 just to get someone through the door. Retirees who moved here for the Florida dream are watching their equity disappear, not in a crash, but in a slow, steady drip. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. A home purchased for around $430,000 at the peak is now worth roughly $398,000. That is $32,000 gone before 3 years of insurance, property taxes, and carrying costs. If the agent told you this neighborhood was recession-proof, do you still believe that right now, with your listing sitting on the market for 4 months? Port Charlotte does not make it onto the highlight reels. No famous beach, no national news coverage, just quiet canals, low-slung houses, and the kind of neighborhood where you wave to your neighbor from the driveway. For a lot of buyers in 2022, that was the entire appeal: affordable, peaceful, off the radar. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to ResiClub Analytics, Charlotte County recorded the largest surge in unsold housing inventory of any county in the entire country during 2025. Not the highest in Florida, the highest anywhere. Homes are stacking up. Buyers are not showing up. The reason is blunt. Sellers bought at 2022 prices and are still trying to get 2022 prices. Buyers are refusing to pay them. The result is homes sitting on the market for 3 to 4 months on average, and sellers who cannot wait are learning the hard way what the market will actually bear. A growing number of Port Charlotte sellers report the same experience list. The home here nothing for weeks, cut the price by $30,000 to $50,000, get one showing a month. The dream of cashing out on Florida real estate is not playing out the way the listing presentation promised. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. A home purchased for around $380,000 is now listing around $340,000. That is $40,000 in paper losses, and the market has not found a floor yet. Would you have put that down? Payment down if you knew Charlotte County would have more unsold homes than anywhere else in the country the very next year? Bonita Springs sits between Naples and Fort Myers, close enough to both to borrow their appeal, far enough to feel like a discovery. Estero Bay to the west, mangrove trails winding south, the kind of coastal Florida that feels untouched, which is exactly why people paid a premium to live here. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Southwest Florida real estate market research homeowners, in the Cape Coral and Fort Myers metro, the market Bonita Springs belongs to pay insurance that amounts to 2.2% of their home's value every single year, On a $350,000 home, that is $7,700 annually, the third highest insurance cost ratio in the entire nation. That insurance burden sits on top of a market that is already falling. According to ResiClub Analytics, this metro posted a year-over-year price decline of 9.19% between January 2025 and January 2026. Snowbird investors who bought vacation rentals expecting Airbnb income to cover the bills are doing the math now. The math is not working. A growing number of short-term rental owners in this area report the same problem. Rental income does not cover the combined weight of the mortgage, the insurance, the HOA, and the property management fees. They are subsidizing other people's vacations while slowly bleeding equity. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. A home purchased for around $450,000 at the peak is now worth roughly $410,000. That is $40,000 gone before you add 3 years of that $7,700 annual insurance bill. When the insurance bill arrived and it was more than you expected, did you call your realtor? What did they say? Naples is the kind of city that makes the rest of Florida look like it is trying too hard. Fifth Avenue South on a warm evening, the restaurants full, the streets quiet, the Gulf of Mexico glittering at the end of every west-facing road. This was, and still is, one of the most expensive zip codes on Florida's Gulf Coast. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to ResiClub Analytics, home prices in the Naples and Marco Island metro fell 5.97% year over year from January 2025 to January 2026. Naples, not a starter home market, not an entry-level neighborhood, one of the most expensive markets in all of Florida, going the wrong direction. Naples is one of only 5 metro areas in the entire United States, with a year-over-year price decline exceeding 5% in that period, per the same ResiClub Analytics data. The luxury market is not immune. Homes priced above $700,000 are sitting on the market with sellers offering $50,000 concessions just to get a deal closed. A growing number of high-end Naples sellers report buyers who know exactly how much leverage they have. Sellers who plan to cash out at the top are contributing to closing costs, accepting lower offers, and adjusting to a market that no longer moves on their timeline. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. A home purchased for around $550,000 at the peak is now worth closer to $518,000. That is $32,000 in paper losses in one of the most desirable zip codes in the entire state. If the luxury market in Naples is falling by 6% in a single year, what does that tell you about every other market that cannot even call itself luxuries? If this is hitting close to home, hit subscribe. We cover these markets every week so you can stay ahead of what is coming. Fort Myers was supposed to be the comeback story. Hurricane Ian made landfall in September 2022. And tore through Lee County in a way that made national news for weeks. Then, the rebuilding started new roofs, repaired roads, and a resilience narrative that made Fort Myers sound like the place that refused to stay down. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to CBS News investigative reporting from 2026, a growing number of Fort Myers homeowners who were dropped by their original insurer were automatically placed into a replacement carrier, one that whistleblowers alleged had diverted millions away from policyholders. Some Fort Myers homeowners cannot find private insurance coverage at any price today. They are paying through Florida's Citizens Property Insurance Program, the insurer of last resort, or they are going without coverage entirely. The insurance crisis in Fort Myers is doing something the price chart alone cannot capture. It is making ownership unpredictable from year to year. Private carriers have been exiting the Florida market. The ones that stayed are raising rates or restricting coverage. Buyers see this. The uncertainty is baked into every offer they submit and into every deal that collapses at the insurance contingency. Hurricane Ian survivors who rebuilt their homes are now facing a second financial blow. The house looks better than it ever did. The roof is new, the floors are new, but the insurance has repriced sometimes double what they paid before the storm. Ian cost them once. The insurance market is costing them every year after, with no end date attached. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. A home purchased for around $380,000 is now worth closer to $345,000. That is $35,000 in paper losses before counting the insurance premium increases that have compounded every year since Ian made landfall. 3 years after Hurricane Ian, homes are still losing value. How long does it take for a market to recover from something it has not even stopped paying for? The Manatee River runs right through the heart of Bradenton, and the Riverwalk looks like it was built for a city that expected to keep growing. Waterfront restaurants, new condos with balconies facing the water families out on weekends. On the surface, this market looks like it held up fine. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to local Manatee County market data, the median sale price here fell from $494,000 in August 2024 to $467,640 in August 2025. A drop of more than $26,000 in a single year. And Bradenton sits inside the North Port and Sarasota Metro, where according to Redfin's first quarter 2026 data, 48% of all listings had to cut their asking price, the highest share of any major metro in the entire country. The root cause is not complicated. Young families who stretched their budgets to buy in 2022 are now watching the same floor plans in their neighborhood list for less than what they paid. On paper, they are already underwater before a single equity gain is counted. A growing number of Bradenton buyers from the 2022 Rush Report, the same situation: they cannot sell without taking a loss, and they cannot afford to refinance at current rates. The house is not an asset right now. It is a mortgage with a floor plan attached. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. Following the county median, a home worth $494,000 in mid-2024 was worth $467,640 1 year later. That is $26,360 gone in 12 months. If the median price just dropped by $26,000 in a single year, at what point does "wait it out" stop being a strategy and start being a loss? Sarasota has always punched above its weight. Siesta Key ranked among the best beaches in the country year after year. A real arts district. Architecture that does not look like it was stamped from a subdivision mold. If any Gulf Coast city was supposed to hold its value, you would have bet on Sarasota. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Beyond Realty, Sarasota's condo market now has more than 8 months of unsold supply. Anything above 6 months is a textbook buyer's market. Sarasota condos are well past that line, and the number is still climbing. The reason goes beyond supply and demand. Following the 2021 Surfside condominium collapse in Miami, Florida, passed mandatory building inspection and reserve fund requirements for all condos statewide. Owners in older Sarasota buildings are now receiving special assessment bills, some for $50,000, some for $100,000, some higher. They are being forced to sell at a loss because they cannot afford to stay. A growing number of Sarasota condo owners report the same impossible choice: pay a 6-figure assessment on a building where values are falling, or list immediately at whatever the market will take. Some are barely breaking even. Some are not breaking even at all. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. According to Zillow's 2026 data, the typical Sarasota home is now worth $462,158, down from a peak of around $505,000. That is roughly $42,842 in paper losses. You bought into one of the most desirable zip codes in Florida. The beach is still there. The sunsets are still there. So why is your condo worth less than what you paid for it? Cape Coral is the city Florida built for optimism. Over 400 miles of canals, more than any city in the world. Boats in the backyard. Waterfront access at a fraction of what it costs in Miami. During 2021 and 2022, people came from all over the country and paid whatever it took to get in. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's March 2026 data, 41% of all Cape Coral listings carried a price cut, while the number of homes for sale jumped roughly 50% from a year ago. 41% of sellers cutting their price. 50% more competition. That is not a correction. That is a market unwinding. According to Southwest Florida real estate market research, homeowners in Cape Coral pay insurance that amounts to 2.2% of their home's value every year. On a $350,000 home, that is $7,700 annually, $642 every single month. More than the monthly payment on a new pickup truck. Homeowners here are paying a second car payment every month just to insure the house. According to eMarketer's research, approximately 12% of Florida homeowners are planning to move because of rising insurance costs, nearly double the national average of 6.2%. Some of them are in Cape Coral. Their listings are part of what is driving that 50% inventory surge. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. According to Redfin, the March 2026 median in Cape Coral was $351,000, down from a peak of around $390,000. That is $39,000 in paper losses before the insurance bill. $642 a month in insurance. On top of the mortgage, on top of the HOA. At what point does the math stop working? Drive into Northport on a Saturday morning, and you will see what a boom looks like after the music stops. Freshly paved streets, brand new houses with clean paint and untouched landscaping. Almost no cars in the driveways. New subdivisions that sold out completely in 2022, now sitting quiet in a way that feels less like a weekend and more like a slow abandonment. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin and ResiClub Analytics, first quarter 2026 data, 48% of all listings in the Northport and Sarasota metro had a price cut. The highest share of any major metro area in the entire United States. Of every city, every suburb, every housing market in America, not one had more sellers cutting their asking price than right here. According to ResiClub Analytics, Northport home prices have fallen roughly 20% below where they were just 3 years ago. Not from an unusual spike, from where they were 3 years ago. This is not a dip. It is a structural reset, and it is still happening. A growing number of Northport sellers report the same story. The home was bought at the top, the neighborhood is still new, the finishes are still fresh, and none of it matters. The market does not care what you paid. It cares what the next buyer will pay. And the next buyer has dozens of nearly identical options, no urgency, and all the leverage. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. Using the 20% decline from the 3-year prior level, a home purchased for around $375,000 is now worth roughly $300,000. That is $75,000 in paper, losses the largest single city figure on this entire list. Nearly half of your neighbors have already cut their asking price. Are you next, or are you waiting to see how low they go first? Punta Gorda is a small city on Charlotte Harbor at the mouth of the Peace River. Fishing boats in the early morning. A walkable historic district that does not feel like it was built for social media. Retirees, remote workers, people who found it before the crowds did. In 2022, that discovery phase became a stampede. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to ResiClub Analytics data, from January 2026, home prices in the Punta Gorda metro fell 11.93% in a single year, from January 2025 to January 2026. 11.93%. That is one of the steepest year-over-year price declines of any metro area in the entire United States. And here is the number that no other channel has put on screen. According to ResiClub Analytics, 4 of the 5 metro areas in the entire country with the deepest year-over-year price declines are right here on Florida's Gulf Coast, 4 out of 5. The worst housing correction in America is not in Detroit. It is not in Chicago. It is not scattered across the Rust Belt. It is concentrated in the one place everyone rushed to buy during the pandemic. The paradise narrative is collapsing city by city, and Punta Gorda is at the center of it. According to Punta Gorda housing market data from April 2026, the average sale price had settled around $355,000 as of January 2026, a painful gap for anyone who bought at the 2022 median of around $403,000. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. A home purchased for around $403,000 at the peak is now worth around $355,000. That is roughly $48,000 in paper losses before 3 years of insurance property taxes and the carrying costs of a market that has not yet shown a floor. If you bought here in 2022, you are sitting on roughly $48,000 in paper losses today. Tell me, what is your exit strategy? Every single city on this list was sold as a destination, a place to retire, a place to invest, a place to escape to. The pitch was the same in Venice as it was in Punta Gorda: warm weather waterfront, access a lifestyle you could not find anywhere else at a price that made sense. For 2 years, people believed it. They moved here from California, from New York, from the Midwest, from Canada. They paid what the market asked. And in every single city on this list, the same pattern is now playing out. Too many homes, too few buyers, insurance that costs more than most people budgeted for, prices moving in the wrong direction with no announced bottom, sellers cutting prices not because they want to, but because they have run out of options. Here is what that pattern adds up to. According to ResiClub Analytics, 4 of the 5 metro areas in the entire United States with the steepest year-over-year price declines are concentrated in this one region, Southwest Florida's Gulf Coast. The worst housing correction in America did not happen where people expected it. It happened in the place that was supposed to be the exception. The place everyone said was different. It was not different, the numbers say so. The dream was real. The price it was sold at that was never real. This video is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or real estate advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making any investment decisions. The warning signs were always there. The question is, were you watching? Subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your city in the comments below.